Okay, I think we can get started this morning. How's everybody doing? We get to hear from Art and Cindy, who recently went to... Wow.
You bring birds?
Got birds joining us. I don't know what that is. Thank you.
Yeah, we too close?
Anyway,
Okay.
let's see. Yeah, can everybody hear okay?
Can you hear us?
Okay. Test yours again.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Okay. So, Art and Cindy recently went to Uganda, and they've put together a great slideshow with gorgeous African graphics, and we have it on the monitor here for you to see. And so we're just going to go through some pictures and topics and let them explain a little bit about what the pictures are and the experience that they had while they were there. So, but let's start with some prayer, okay? God, thank you for today. Thank you for the great week we have had celebrating you and you entering earth as a child. Thank you for what that ultimately meant for us. As we hear from Art and Cindy today, please let us also recognize that gift was to the world and to everyone who you created. It's in your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So the very first thing is meeting Nicholas and Daniel and Susan, and they were your hosts in Uganda.
Mhm.
He's the big guy in the back.
Yeah, the big guy in the back.
We're
New. That's new to the airport. Yes, so that was one reason we took a picture there.
What is it?
It's a
Big old
It's a
gorilla.
big old gorilla.
and that was a fairly nice, the Entebbe airport, that was fairly nice. I was surprised by that. It was very modern, convenience, things like that, so, yeah.
The old one still has the board shells on them,
Yeah.
you know, where the Entebbe hijacking.
Yeah, we drove past that. When you're going out, you see the old airport, yeah.
So then,
So
You-
our
on the way to where you were headed, you stopped.
Yeah, so we got straight off of the airplane and we drove to Jinja, which is a couple hours, 4 hours drive, 2 to 3 hours. We had supper there. I guess it was the next day. We got up and we went to the source of the Nile. And I had never been out on the river there. That was my first time. So it was enjoyable, very enjoyable. Nice water.
So it's where the Nile actually begins.
It is, from Lake
Yes.
Victoria, yes.
Yes, from Lake Victoria.
And Bob would always preface by saying, the last times I've gone out there, our boat conked out. I'm like, well, that sounds enticing. This is going to be an interesting little trip, because the current was pretty strong.
We did see fishermen out there, and there were no poles. It was no nets. It was like they threw a line out, and then you could see them hauling it in
Yeah.
like this, which that was kind of amazing.
Very biblical.
So, yes.
Yeah.
All right, so talk about the vocational school and what all they have. We've talked about this before, but explain, how it's grown, maybe some of the different vocations you can learn, and how many people are attending, and what do you know about it?
Well, I'm not one of the berries, so I'll give it from Bob's perspective and correct me if I'm wrong. Bob has been here for at least over 10 years, is that correct? He asked Nicholas and Daniel, if you project something you want to grow here, how we can plant a seed here in Uganda, what can we do? And we can't, and correct me if I'm wrong, because this is secondhand, this is me trying to interpret what Bob and Nicholas was saying, is that they wanted a missionary school, a missionary as far as vocational center, all Christian-based. They wanted planted churches there. They wanted to plant a medical center. And we're seeing the fruition of this. And so going through this is one of the things, obviously, with your mother, and you could tell the story better than I, as far as the sewing, as far as also the carpentry and things like that. And we got to see the actual, and you'll see the slides later on, the graduation. But you see the seeds planted. It was just it was an unbelievable experience to see the joy of the individuals, the blessing they received from the seeds that were planted through Itty Bitty Ministries. And so, but you can go on from there. Is that pretty correct?
Yeah, so it started out with just construction. Men came there to learn how to make brick, construct walls. When they and they received a certificate then that they could present to workers, and they could, it just helped them get jobs, knowing that they were skilled. And then later, Susan wanted to start a sewing center where ladies could learn to sew, give them a trade, so that they could help income with their families. And the sewing center program that kind of started, well, after Mom died, there were gifts given, and this is what they established. About 30 women at a time will come in here, use these sewing machines. They have an instructor. It's about 5 to 6 months, and they also have to, they have exams, and then they also get a certificate.
And it's because it's associated with a certification from the state,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
then that gives it credibility to start the business in their
Yes,
community or in their
community,
village
yes,
or
yeah.
wherever. Yeah.
And unfortunately, there is still, this is the bad side of it, but the good side, there's still some polygamy that goes on where men get jobs in other towns and they,
Leave the family.
leave the family, so there's nothing for them, or they give their money away to another family that they have. So this is a way for these women to provide for their families. And as Susan said at the graduation, I really should read this from my phone because I wrote it down. But changing, giving women a skill changes families, changes communities, and changes Uganda, basically. That just carries out. It spills over. And we definitely saw some fruition of that.
And others have been to Uganda. I saw pictures of the Deweese family up there and so forth. But it's amazing. They only earn about $1.49 a day. And so we're talking self-sufficiency at its highest point. I mean, it's when I went, this is the only mission trip I've done, and the humility I saw, the love and the love that they have for God and for each other and sense of community, it was overwhelming. And so, but that you see this to us, you're thinking, why don't they have electricity? They only 15% have actually running water in their homes. Only maybe 40-50% have electricity. So you ask these rhetorical questions, why didn't you have electrical, there's no sewing machines in this. Well, if you don't have electricity in your home, and it takes a village to actually purchase this one, it puts things in perspective. It humbles you, but also you see the blessings that this ministry has provided to this community.
Yeah, I should say the picture on the left there is the kitchen, and they recently walled that in with an overhead so that they could cook in the, and not get wet in the rain.
Because that's one of the things in the
Yes.
school, right? They're allowed to bring their young children with them
Oh,
while
yeah.
they're
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
while they're being educated.
Yeah.
And so then while they're there, they also eat and learn and nurse their babies and everything else they need to do to be moms and get an education at the same time.
Very community-centered, everything they do. They rely on each other.
So then they graduate,
Yeah,
and
the
explain
end.
what that is.
at the end of the week, there was a big graduation day, and you can see they're all decked out in their robes and caps, and they order a cake. It's a huge celebration, and honestly, I wish that I didn't have to say names to give out their certificates, because I would have much preferred, not because, no, there was someone in my ear saying the name, you know, they would always, not because of pronunciation. I wanted to watch the ladies and the families celebrate. This is going to bring me to tears. But their families are on the other end just rejoicing with them. The ladies, of course, are dancing across. And it is just a joyful celebration, just the pride of their families about what they've accomplished, and the joy on their faces, and the students' face, the ladies' faces was just, it's just beautiful to
And
watch.
it's a long event, right?
Yeah, it's,
Right.
yeah, they say 1:30, it was said 1:30 was ending, it ended at 4:30. And they did, it's funny, walking in, Bob goes, start dancing. I'm like, say what? They're all because they're all moving and shaking. I'm like, I never felt more white in my life, but okay, we'll do. I guess we dance and we go to the ceremony. I'm like, this is very awkward for you. But the joy that they had, we have videos of the dances, some they did, the African dances, the joy and love that they felt for this ceremony and the family community, it's overwhelming. I mean, Bob's face was priceless.
And then, like you see the lady with the microphone there in that picture on the top right, but that's one of the reasons it takes a while, right? Because each woman gives a bit of a testimony.
Yeah.
Not each one, but
Okay.
they do a skit. They all get together and they do a skit about kind of the story. This one was really kind of the story about how the the sewing center got started. They impersonated Mom coming, you know, with the picture of Mom on the building, has her in her pearls, and so they had a lady with, you know, a necklace of pearl. It was sweet. And they imitate Susan, who is their director. But, you know, it's just the story of some of their families, the things that they have to go through. You know, it might be a husband that, again, has a family in another area. It might be a drunk husband that they have to get permission from to come. She does require, Susan, the director, does require that their husbands are okay with this, with them coming to this, and that they do encourage the husbands to buy the women a sewing machine at the end of the class. And we did get to visit some of them, which you'll
And
see a little bit later.
They have skin in the game too. They have to contribute some to like they have to pay a little bit toward their education, right? It's not.
They pay, I think, for some of the material in their final, in
For
their,
their
yes,
graduation robe
yes,
and to do
yes,
their final.
yes. And the picture in the center, they do have devotions every day. And some of the ladies had accepted Christ, and so we gifted them with a Bible. And some of them, I think those Bibles are in English. This was a really sweet story. Not all of them speak English very well or read English, but some of the husbands do, and they said, "Oh, is it in English? This will be a way I will teach you better
Oh,
English."
good.
And so the husband was gonna teach them and how to read and
Using
speak
the
English
Bible, too.
using the Bible. So,
And we did, when we go to the homes, we actually got to see the fruition of obviously we're going to show the showing, but actually the stuff that they were wearing there at the ceremony was things they actually made. Underneath their cap. And a lot of the family members were also wearing things that their wives had made for them. So you could see the actual fruit of what they've done. And literally, it's one of the story, it took them about 30 minutes to do this whole gown. It was like, she told me something like 30 minutes to do the whole dress, 30 minutes. They became very proficient in with their gifts that they had, and their husbands were very appreciative, and their family, like I said, it was a family community event. Yeah.
All right, So then you had the vocational school, and then you had the Christian schools, for the, is it Nourish Children?
Nourish
Is that right?
Children,
So tell us
yes.
about that.
Do you want to go first? Or do you want-
Well, during when Amy and Cindy were actually at the school doing little services, I was painting. So I'm going to I was painting the medical center. So I did do a whole, if you see the medical center, that was my gift as far as vocational day. So the ladies did the actual Sunday the services.
We did all get together. Most of these pictures, they had presentation songs that they sang us,
Oh,
songs
they were
that
adorable.
they sang for us, to us. And after that, he and Dad went to paint, or maybe just you. And Amy and I did a lesson with the kids. And I wish I had shown, I mean, there's so many kids but they grouped them in like the younger age and then the older age. She did a lesson on the 5 loaves and 2 fish, and we did a little paper craft with them. And so there's a picture of
Yeah, I didn't put that in.
yeah, okay, so there were, they got to show their bread and their fish that God multiplied. It was a lot of fun, they enjoyed it. They do not get to do many craft activities just because there's not a lot of extra paper. We left scissors there for them, so hopefully, they can share those and use those in some good ways.
Yeah.
Lots of
then-
fun, chaotic.
And then tell about, like, you mentioned at the beginning, Nicholas and Daniel, they have this vision for so many things.
Mhm.
They've got the vocational school, they've got these Nourish
Yeah.
children. So tell what the Nourish
So this is-
children are and Nourish schools are.
I mean, this is definitely a poorer community.
Oh, yes.
There are some children's families that pay tuition for the school, but there are some children that go to this school that are orphans, and during school, they actually sleep there at the school. They have a building where they have mats spread out that they sleep, just to make sure that they have a place to sleep, they get to school, they get nourished, they're
So
medically.
they feed them a meal here, right?
Yeah, they're medically taken care of, and because Agnes was treating one girl who had been sick, she was giving her an IV, like in the downtime of school, so the Nourish School and Nourish Medical Center are right next to each other. So those kids that don't have parents or relatives that are taking care of them, they make sure that they're taken care of there at the school.
Yeah, at the medical facility, Agnes, she's Nicholas's wife.
Daniel's wife.
Daniel's wife. I was shocked. When you say a pharmacy, I think we have more drugs in our cabinet at our house. My wife's a nurse, but tenfold that they had there. It was very, very, very basic medical facility. And it was one of the blessings before we were leaving. Your father got a meeting with another major medical contributor that's trying to combine forces to actually, you remember that, the meeting we had? It was just a blessing, and I thought it was just out of the blue. No, your father had that organized because he knew they needed help in this area. And you could tell that more than I probably, because you know more about it. But it was like, how do we meet this guy back in Entebbe at the same dinner table that's talking about nourishment? I'm like, Bob. It was out of the blue. For me, it was out of the blue. I'm like, how do we know this guy? How'd you guys know? It was a coming together of the things that I said that were lacking, how Bob was working through the scenes while I was painting, trying to look the vision that he had for this. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, he's been networking with other people who have ministries in Uganda to say,
Yeah.
okay, you've got this hospital ministry, and we've got this medical center.
Right.
If there's any way that the hospital ministry can help support as a satellite office this medical center, which is also certified with the state.
Right.
And meets certain requirements. can we connect those as maybe a parent organization? And so I think they're working
Yeah,
on
they're
that.
working toward that.
You seem very encouraged, yeah.
It was amazing and really humbling to see what they were able to do from a medical standpoint, just in a fifth world situation. It was really humbling.
Now, Jim, you've gone there before. I've been to Dominican and parts of Mexico. I've never seen this abject poverty. It was shocking to me. Did you find that to be true for you?
Yeah, when I was a young student at Johnson, I think I was a sophomore, went to the Dominican, and I remember thinking, wow, to see and smell poverty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming.
It was.
You just can't be prepared for what you think you might expect. So then, while you're at these schools, you're distributing,
Yeah, on another day, the Nourish Children that many of you sponsor, they were there, and we gave them backpacks, they got shoes, and Amy's aunt had made a bunch of dresses.
Yeah, beautiful dresses.
And so we gave out those to the girls that were there. Very grateful.
your dentist sent a bunch of toothbrushes.
Oh, yes, that's right. We gave them toothbrushes. So yes, it was all, yeah, the toothbrushes are there on the right.
Tell them a little bit about how they respond to shoes.
Oh, yes, they will, as you present them with their gifts, they will kneel to you, like you're giving me shoes.
Yeah, here's some shoes.
And this is like full down on their knee.
And we saw that during the
Thankful.
ceremony as well. A lot of women were doing that, and I thought that's what it was.
Yeah.
But it was giving thanks, and they were just so appreciative. So they were I think they're a little overwhelmed, the kids were, especially the backpacks. Yeah.
And I would imagine that's got to be humbling to you to have people bowing down to you.
Oh, yeah. It's totally uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so then work days. Art, here you are.
Well, actually, I like Cindy's best because we were coming around the corner, Bob and I were, and we're watching all these ladies. And no offense, to you, Cindy and Amy, this is the last of the ladies. Maybe we're not as prepared, but this is the end of the row. We actually had more people. This is where they carry water. They literally have no running water. I mean, and so how far? You know how far you did it.
They've not had rain. They do have a big tank. This was also at the Christ Workmanship. They do have a large tank, but they had not had much rain, so it was empty. And so they were carrying water for, cooking and toiletry and hand washing. They did have a spring, maybe a quarter of a mile away.
Yeah.
So when we got there, they were carrying jugs, and Nicholas said, "Oh, they're going to get some water for the day." And I said, "Well, can I go with them?" And Amy said, "Yeah, I'll go with them. We'll help." And so we walked, not a problem there. Got to the spring, started to fill, anyway, Nicholas's sister was also there. And
Rebecca, yeah.
thank you. I started to fill up my jug thinking that I was going to fill it all the way to the top, and she said, "Cindy, only fill up how much you can carry." She said, "That's enough, that's enough." And then I'm thinking,
about a 5-gallon.
yeah, and then I'm thinking I'm going to sidearm it all the way back. And of course, they are swinging those things up on their head. I said, "Oh, I can see how that would be a lot easier to put it on your head." So I did, but yes, I was a lot slower. And there was one part that I knew we kind of jumped over some mud, and I gladly gave it to the other lady. I said, and she hopped over it like it was nothing with that thing on her head. And then I took it back, and I was like, but yes, I found some muscles I had not used in my neck the next day.
And I noticed you're two-handed.
Yes, I'm two-handing it. I wasn't gonna let go.
And the day before I painted, I said to Nicholas something like that, "Your roads are terrible." He goes, "I got a job for you." So that morning, they were having gravel. And on these wheelbarrows, we literally, we hauled gravel to these pit holes. And that's what I did for half a day. I'm like, well, that was my mouth. I should not have my big mouth. I'm like, right after about the third or fourth time, I'm ready to tap out. I go, painting looks pretty good. Why don't we go for this? So, yeah, they were very thankful, I thought. And with our lack of gifts at times,
We
yeah.
gave them a good smile with
Yeah.
carrying the water and painting
But
and
that
all that.
physical labor is just like a daily,
Oh, yeah.
It's their daily
That's
life.
everyday thing.
It's,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's no machines, there's no automation, and so you're hauling gravel, you're making bricks, you're,
Yes, as we were walking out, Rebecca said, "Oh yeah, this is an everyday occurrence. From the time you're old enough to carry a jug, you're going to get water for the day. You know, and you just get a jug of however much you can carry. You know, when you're 5, it's a smaller pot, but as you get older, you carry larger and larger containers of water. But it's just a given."
And
Were they making their own gravel?
no, it was fun of them. It was actually in front of the nourishment thing. They had broken up some sidewalks, something like that. And we say holes. I mean, Daniel's car literally got stuck in a hole that I think we thought you need a
We
tow
thought the
truck.
axle
And this
was
was to get into the medical facility. I mean, we're talking. I mean, going from Entebbe, I get motion sickness, and about 3 hours into it, I'm like, I got to take some Dramamine. I'm dying here. I mean, I've never seen roads like this. I mean, it was. But the off roads. To call them roads, I'm like, why don't you take the field? You know what I mean? You're probably, I kept thinking to myself, take the field. There's a better path. And so,
One of the things that I saw that kind of stuck with me was this young guy, he was 15 or so, was sitting there with a hammer making gravel. He was literally breaking off.
they had done that. I think, good point, Jim. I think they had done that, and I just did the hauling thereof. And so, but yeah, the holes, I mean, obviously were so bad that you're almost better off not going the road. So, yeah.
and that was to fill potholes.
Potholes.
Yeah.
All right, so then you got to visit homes, and these were people who had already graduated, or people
Some
who were
were-
in school, or,
Some were graduating, some had already graduated. This lady, she had just graduated, and I think she was from around Mbali, where the sewing center is, but she knew that this town, and we drove there, it was maybe 15, 20
It was long. It was a
minutes.
good. Can you imagine walking it? But yeah.
Yeah. She said, well, why don't I do a little business? Her husband had this little business on the road, and she said, why don't I just put a sewing machine back there, and I'll sell dresses and shirts and clothing from behind his business where there aren't people with sewing skills. So she has actually, business mind, you know, gone to a place where there's not someone making clothes. Yeah, where she can sell hers.
Why are they not technology, I mean, they haven't advanced in technology
They have no.
as like the rest of the
Cities,
world.
some
Why is that?
cities, it's just expensive. And like he said, they're making
There's not a lot of capital there.
$1.50.
You know, it's a diverse economy of socialism, capitalism, but it was weird. We went through election. There are elections coming, I think, now,
actually today.
yeah. And and I'm like, you've had the same president for 46 years. How does this happen? He's selected, not elected. And so I think it's a forced economy, and there's not a lot of capital liquidity there. And so self-sufficiency is everything they do. And most of the buildings, you guys have been there, are from the English Empire. I mean, when they left, English colonization, I'm sorry, colonization. when we went to the Nile, that fishing village, I think they were cardboard houses. I mean, I was about ready to cry. It was like sad. I've never seen that kind of poverty, so.
Cindy, do they grow their own food?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
They all have farms. I even asked Nicholas and Daniel this. I said, well, do you guys have your, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Everything's
So-
self-sufficiency.
Yeah, they grow and they sell it. Susan was saying, yes, she said, I usually grow rice because it's a little bit more, it brings in a little bit more money than just, what was the other thing that she?
There's a lot of banana trees.
Yeah,
Oh, are they-
potatoes
yeah,
and, yeah. the
bananas all over the place.
Bananas,
Yeah.
yeah. So yes, they all have farms, grow their own food. Are both of those pictures from where we walked up?
Well, yeah, this is,
The man that gave us the chicken?
yeah, no, the latter two, or the first two are.
First two, yeah.
But a lot of ladies like actually bringing out their sewing. They were so happy and proud because the husband or the community helped sponsor to purchase that, and they're so thankful of that. Yeah.
And the men too are so thankful, you know, it's like, thank you for giving her this skill that she's able to bring in income for our family. And the two on the left are, we walked up to one of the ladies' homes, and this was an interesting story. Susan was in this village, which is maybe 30, 40 minutes from
Yeah.
Mbali. She was taking a boda, which is a motorcycle. That's their, cheapest mode of transportation from city to city unless you walk. So this driver, she was telling, as she's going back to Mbali to the Christ Workmanship, she's telling him about the sewing center and the education that she's giving the ladies, and he's like, this is it? And it's free? I need my wife to come to this. Well, not only did he bring his wife, he also brought his mother, and
Yeah, it's a good story.
I want to say another relative or a friend that also lived
Yeah,
in
it's a
that
relative,
area. He was bringing them to and from. I think they are there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then they go back home, back to their homes. So they're making this trip about twice a week on a boda for 6 months so that they can learn sewing skills. And so we drove up to her little village and walked up to their house, which is the center picture that you see. And, this was also a village that they later told us that village has probably never seen a white person. So we
Yeah.
were.
You heard that term a lot. There's a white, I don't know what it is in Uganda, but after a while, you're like, there's a white person. They don't see white people hardly at all.
And as we were pulling into that village, before we got out to walk, there was a school there, and as we left, people were looking in the car, Mzungu!
Mzungu, that's it, Mzungu, that's it.
Two! And they said that to our car.
All the
and then,
all
of
the time,
course,
yeah.
I think Dad and Art were in the car behind us, and they said, well, they were probably saying the same thing,
In that middle picture, the father was so happy.
Yes.
Amy was carrying a chicken with him. Like, why are you carrying a chicken for? Oh, that's our dinner at graduation. He was so thankful, as poor as they were. He felt so thankful and blessed that all. Yeah.
In the middle picture.
The middle picture.
That's his house.
Yeah.
And his wife came,
Yeah.
the mother of the boda driver. They were so elated, so happy, and she wanted to contribute to the graduation dinner. And so Amy got to hold the chicken, the live chicken, all
I
the
asked,
way down to the car.
like, Amy, what are you doing with this chicken? Oh, it's my chicken now.
And then they had the experience, which I don't think Dad had ever experienced, of live animals in the car, because they picked up 2 more chickens for the graduation dinner on the way back. So you'll have to ask Dad about that experience.
And there's the chicken. Yeah.
Yes,
Presenting the
yeah,
chicken,
yeah, he's presenting the chicken to Amy. And then those, I know at least the girl on the step on the side of the house there, I know that's one of their daughters.
I thought they both were, yeah.
They probably both are,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
And then the churches that you visited?
okay, so the one on the left is the Nourish
Mhm.
Church.
That's Daniels, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't get to visit their service, but it also is right next to the medical center. And then the one top right is the one in Mbali, the community church is what they call it. And,
And we
Yeah,
got to baptize like 15 people. Bob and I were in the water. I'm like, and this is right before going to the airport, mind you.
yeah,
And so it was a huge blessing. But I remember the people at the airport were like, "What's in your backpack?" Wet clothes. Because I was at 48.49 pounds. I'm like, I've got to put in my backpack. But the service was unbelievable. I mean, their fellowship and just love. You see the fulfillment. I think they've planted 6 more churches, like Nicholas said, in the area. Not through us, but and I'm like,
I think there is a mountain church. We were trying to visit them, but we did not get to go up and visit them.
Does the government object to them having churches?
No,
surprising you say that. I think when I was talking to Nicholas and Daniel, there are about 75% Christians in this region of Uganda. Now, northern Uganda has a little more Islam presence. In fact, every night, you could speak to this, they'd be praying to Allah. You could hear, because you have open window. We don't have air conditioning there, so we didn't have in the room. So you heard everything. And Christian had services at 3 in the morning as well for different. And so their faith, I was very humbled as far as their Christian faith, but in their fellowship and their community. But they seemed right. I mean, you saw a lot of Christian vans, stuff like that. I love the culture there. So no.
They're very open, and right now the president is, we let people believe whatever faith they want to believe. So right now, that's a good thing in Uganda.
Very good thing.
It's my understanding that they're concerned with
Very concerned.
the next president,
Yes.
because this president's been in control for
40
decades.
40 years or more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and his son
I-
will be the next elected.
Yeah, they think that
President.
his son, they think he's kind of grooming his son, but his son is not quite the upstanding
Character,
person.
yeah, lack character.
Of character, yeah,
Yeah.
he lacks some character. So they don't know what that will bring in the future. There are younger people that are running.
Nothing
We
like.
saw plenty of political rallies.
Oh, yeah.
And cars, that are,
I think.
come to this political rally.
Yeah, Trudy, I think they're the ones making the money. I kept thinking that because the president's, his slogan was making incremental progress. I'm like, since when? I mean, we get mad every 2 years. I mean, 40-some years, incremental progress. The patience of God, I guess. You know what I mean?
All right, so you talked a little bit about the poverty. You talked a little bit about the city life. There's a typical plate of food that you guys ate.
Yes.
How many times have you had rice since you've been back, Art?
Well, it's the eggs that kind of tapped out. They had eggs everywhere all the time. And so after about 5 days of eggs, I could not do it anymore. But a lot of starchy food, a lot of plain food, which I'm a plain eater, so a lot of rice, a lot of potatoes.
Belly fillers.
Yeah. And it's surprising because if you've been there, they load up their plate like it's a trough. Because I don't know if it's because they work so hard or they don't get enough, they don't know where their next meal is coming from. But literally, they would load up and they eat like it's like the last meal.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
that was a typical meal that we would eat out when we were in the villages. There's a little bit, some kind of stew with chicken or beef. Mutoku is that yellow, kind of at 1 o'clock there, which if you see any like big branches of bananas, that's what mutoku is. They put it in the leaves, they cook it, then they mash it, and then they open those leaves up, and then you just spoon it out. Rice, I can't remember what the orange thing is. I can't tell what that is. The bread, I did really like that bread.
I did too.
Yeah, the triangle, that was really good. And that was a little bit of slaw
The thing in red, I think, had a lot of flavor to it. I remember I bit into it a couple
Right,
times like that.
Matoka does not have a lot of flavor. It is definitely a filler.
But I don't know if you can see in that bottom center picture, that little white shack
Right.
says, "Welcome, fresh and clean."
And it's like a goat or something hanging there, a dressed goat. So I took that picture and sent it to Philip, my husband. I was like, interested? He was like, no.
Is it spicy?
No, I don't.
No?
No.
Well, surprisingly, why that picture is unique, because most of the chicken stuff like that, they have to be live.
Yeah.
And Cindy was
Nicholas
telling me
and
that.
Daniel told us that it really is a law that all of the farm produce or, animals have to be sold live. I said, well, then how is that there? He said, well, there are some people that have certifications for butchering, and that's what that would be. So.
But clean and fresh, clean and fresh is an oxymoron there.
But
That's
those little storefronts are very common through every village that you go through on the main road. You'll just see stands of all sorts of things, from clothing to building materials to food. Those little stands are set up all along the road in every village that you drive through.
Are there still clumps of corn everywhere you look?
I saw
As
corn.
in-
Osho growing.
Oh, yeah.
They had an old corn that was left over from the colonial empire, and I don't think that stuff's changed in 150 years.
Yeah.
But huge ears of white corn and just a belly filler, just pure starch.
Yeah.
A lot of starchy food, yeah.
Anywhere you looked, if they had 5 square feet, there was a half a dozen or a dozen stalks of corn growing.
And that's their,
Yeah.
that's their farm, right?
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Mhm.
Huge ears of corn.
And then contrast that with the beauty of it.
Oh, that was,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
It was priceless, yeah. Was it Sippy
Sippy
Falls? Yeah, 200, 300-foot waterfalls. It was just, the topography around this area was just unbelievably beautiful. It was breathtaking. I don't know how to put it better. The pictures speak for themselves. But we got to walk behind the waterfalls, and
kind of like, it does remind you a little bit of hiking in the Smoky Mountains.
Ramsey Cascade or Grotto,
Coming,
combination of those two, yeah, except a lot bigger.
Coming to a waterfall, getting up on the rocks or behind the waterfall.
And so when people think of Africa, a lot of times it's the poverty of it or the desolation of it, when in fact, many parts of Africa. like
Oh,
we talked about-
breathtaking,
Yeah,
yeah.
so maybe the unexpected part of that, right?
Oh, yeah, completely.
That's it.
That's it.
Any questions? Because this was my first mission trip, so I didn't know what to expect, but it was such a blessing to do this. I mean, the love that the Uganda people gave to us in each of the mission schools, and the children were just priceless. And it's funny because you think that because there seem to be more of this world than in the world, and maybe that's a blessing for them because they really appreciate God and their family and stuff like that. So, and what we've done there, when they told the whole story, when Bob and Nicholas, I can't believe this has all started from an idea that Bob planted 10 years ago with Nicholas. It's just, you see the fulfillment of that, and you see.
And I think the thing that impresses me is, Nicholas and Daniel, they just don't stop. And you think about, it's the churches, it's the school, it's the vocational center, it's Livingstone University. We didn't even talk about that. And, and in the meantime, he's trying to get his doctorate to help.
Yeah, Nicholas is, yeah.
Nicholas is trying to get his doctorate at Johnson remotely to try to add to the credibility of Livingstone to stay in good favor with the state who accredits the school.
Yeah.
So they're doing these churches and the schools and taking care of the children and passing out toothbrushes and in the meantime filling potholes with gravel
Anything,
and
yeah.
hauling water and painting and teaching people at Livingstone and learning.
Keeping up their own farms and
Yeah.
families, and yeah.
Yeah.
And I asked, this came up, I don't know how this came up. But Nicholas said, no, pastors in Uganda
Bless
do
you.
not get paid. I was like, what? He said, no. It's a volunteer ministry, beyond, besides your vocation. And part of that is, some things that have gone on where Ugandans will say, oh, well, you're taking money from the coffers for your own good, and where we could be passing, giving this to families in need and things like that. So pastors in Uganda do not get paid, at least their Christian churches.
So-
Yeah,
To separate themselves from any perception of corruption.
yes.
In fact, the dean of student services, or dean, what was he? He was a missionary, didn't get paid at all. He'd gone there, I can't remember his name, was it James?
Yes.
It was James. He had gone there with his wife around 2016, 2009. Now he's been there for like at least 8 or 9 years. It's all because he's being supported by us, or mission work, or his church back home. But that's very commonplace. I mean, there's like you asking, Trudy, that there's not a lot of money there. It's very. That was the, and you look as. That's why I was always joking, Bob, with incremental growth. I'm like, with what? I hate to say I teach management, stuff like that. It reminds me of Keynesian economics. They, like during the Depression, they pay to fill a hole, then you pay for another to dig it back up. I mean, it felt like you can't envision at this point, and it may be a mixed blessing, because look where we're at. Because when I talk to the dean or the president of the university, I go, you know your why. You have Judeo-Christian values. We've lost a lot of that in our churches, our schools here. So that is important. So.
Trudy had asked, how can they be so poor, I think is basically what she was asking. And I remember thinking, this is 1820s frontier America.
Yeah,
You-
at best.
Well below anything that you could imagine. And they're so content.
That's the part that got me, Jim. They were so happy and content and loving in their faith. That shocked me. You would think, woe to us. If any country, you would think that. That's a very astute observation. That was what I had as well.
What about the doctrine? Like when the kids get sick,
Oh,
what about the medical needs and?
They, of course, the medical center is there, and they try to take care of them as best they can with what they have. It is a state-supported clinic. You may be able to answer
And they
this
couldn't-
better
There's
than I can.
an amazing amount of stuff gets done with tape and Band-Aid.
Yeah.
The skills they had from an emergency room type situation just baffled me. I couldn't even think, it was so far out of what I do. It was just amazing
yeah.
what they're able to do with nothing.
And that nourishment center was living proof of that. What she does, Agnes does, with little to nothing was amazing. Yeah. And a lot of them can't afford this. A lot of them can't afford the hospitals either.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
In 2013, I went on a trip down the Amazon, and the Indians there, that was the first year that they had ever had electricity, but they didn't have anything to plug in.
Kind of a catch-22.
Yeah,
They didn't have anything like that, so they didn't know about them.
right.
But the technology had not caught up to them either.
Well, like, didn't you say in this last trip, somebody mentioned a dishwasher?
Yeah.
And Daniel had never heard of it.
Nicholas
I
never,
had-
had never seen one.
Yeah,
No.
I had to describe what a dishwasher was. He had never seen one, so that's. So, yeah, I mean, that, and I know you asked about, you said like 15% had running water.
Yeah, 40% had electricity.
Yeah, 40, okay.
And that may be in Tebe. That may not be, that's a major city. I mean, I don't know if it's in
Yeah,
our,
but more in the
that's,
towns.
yeah, in the
Yeah,
large
that may
cities,
not
yeah.
be
In Bali.
countrywide.
And they're not where we were at,
Bali is a
no,
city.
no.
What are the current vocational classes being taught? I know when I was there, and it's been a while, there were some plans that didn't seem like they were able to get them accomplished. The electrician and,
Yeah, right now, I think
Mechanics.
it's just construction and the sewing, and they have had beautician,
Mhm.
so. I,
And then who are the instructors for, like, who do they bring in as instructors for each of those? Is that people who have maybe been through the classes and stick around as instructors, or how does that work?
I tried to ask the instructor this, but I think some things got lost in translation. But she has been the instructor there for 2 years. And, yeah, I'm not sure, that was what I was trying to get out of her, and I didn't get the answer to that, because I was like, did you go through this program and get another certification? But she does have like a state certification.
To teach.
To teach, yeah. So, yeah.
What about water, are they a candidate for digging a well there? Is that, something that could happen so that they're not carrying the water,
Well-
a long ways on their head?
Well, they do have tanks that they catch rainwater, like huge, I don't know how many gallons, like the huge rainwater catching tanks. And that usually, I think, is sufficient, and Daniel has said that since we left, they have received some rain, so we did leave the blessing of rain. I told Dad, Dad's African name is Wafuka, and which means rain, because when he went the first time, it rained everywhere he went. And I said, well, and it did not rain while we were there, maybe sprinkled just
Oh,
a little bit
yeah,
in the
nothing.
evenings. I said, well, if they're hurting for water, you better say a prayer of blessing for rain. But, so those rain barrels
But-
usually
But-
provide water for them to use there at the center. And I think they have one at Nourish as well.
And Bob's working with some ventures here about a filtering system that he's got, but the government kind of stopped it because they were thinking they're bringing outside businesses, they're competing with their own. But he's got filtrations, remember we were at as far, and so he's trying to overcome some of these things where you don't have to carry water or wait for rain, literally to rain, to get your water source.
Yeah, there was an American mission that was providing a filtration system for their water. But then in shipping that to Uganda, there were a lot of tariffs, or it was just being taxed
To death, yeah.
more than the water filters were worth. And so they kind of stopped that, but I think their Dad was trying to figure out what part was broken and that it could be an easy fix. And so he's trying, I think, to get that figured out. So, because there was a filtration system at Nourish, so that they could have some clean drinking water for the kids and for the medical center as well.
But they don't take 15-minute showers.
Sure.
No,
I don't think,
no.
yeah, no. I don't think showers are very big common.
All right.
Any other questions?
one other thing I'd like to say, pardon me, with the construction, what really impressed me, I mean, they started with dust and dirt,
Mm-hmm.
built the bricks, baked the bricks, taught them how to build, creating from nothing,
Yeah, that was, Jim, that's a great point, because that was my impression overall. What's been planted here was from nothing. There was nothing there, no school, no medical, I mean, and you look at what's transpired, like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. You know what I mean? It really hits you when you're there.
One of your images was of a pedal-powered sewing machine. How did they get those? Are those, because I'm assuming if somebody in America got 100 of those put together and tried to truck them over, they wouldn't be well accepted, for sure. But how would they come across, that image there? How would they come
Yeah,
across that?
those, you can buy those in Uganda.
So I'm assuming they were probably all manufactured during the European ownership.
They're all, yeah,
That
they're,
is
you're,
a good question.
yeah, they're your
I
grandmother's
remember
sewer
that
singer,
one,
yeah. Yeah.
I think they're still manufacturing new
Really?
that because of that's my understanding, they manufacture new versions of that because of the lack of electricity.
It was a curiosity.
It looks like the old ones your great grandpa, I hate to say, I hate to age us, but yeah.
I know a gentleman that has a collection of over 100 of them, and I thought maybe if he could like will them to Uganda, you
Yeah.
know, how would that work? Well,
Yeah,
the fact is, they
yeah.
probably wouldn't be able to get them there.
Yeah.
Right,
And I was just curious about that.
yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
Thank you
Well,
all.
thank you very
Thanks
much,
for your
guys.
prayers and,
Yeah, thank you for the
Aw.
salute and,
Thanks for sharing.
very good. All right, we're giving you 3 minutes back.
Oh.
Is your dad back here, Cindy?
Yeah.
Or is he still in Uganda?
No, he's back here. He's